United Nations office here in Nairobi to come and give some welcoming remarks. Excellency.
Your Excellency, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs of the Republic of Kenya. Your Excellency, Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, former President Mauritius. Your Excellency, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Azikiwe Jonathan, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellency, Dr. Ibrahim Hassan Mayaki, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Niger and African Union Special Envoy for Food Systems. Your Excellency, Mohamed Bivogi, former Prime Minister of Guinea, Republic of Guinea. Dr. Ismahan, I hope I got it right, Elufi, CGIAR Executive Managing Director, Excellencies, members of the diplomatic community, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and karibu sana. A very warm welcome to you all to the CGIAR Science Week. On behalf of the United Nations family in Kenya, I am honored to welcome you all to the United Nations office at Nairobi, the only UN headquarters in Africa and the Global South, and the heart of United Nations operations in Africa. UNON's mandate is primarily one of global service delivery. We are also host to the global headquarters of the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, and the United Nations Human Settlement Program, UN Habitat, and an increasing number of sister United Nations agency funds and programs that are moving components of their global operations to Nairobi in order to bring them closer to the field programs they support, as well as take advantage of our first-class world services at third world cost. UNON also provides administrative and conference services support to UNEP, UN Habitat, the Resident Coordinator System, and other United Nations offices in 166 countries around the world. Trailblazers in our rights, we became the first pilot of the United Nations Secretary General Efficiency Agenda in the successful implementation of the United Nations Common Back Office. Despite very limited resources and multiple unprecedented challenges in these times, our drive to be the best and serve humanity better has never been stronger. The 140 acres of land we stand on today was initially gifted to UNEP at 100 acres by the visionary first president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, in 1975, with an additional 40 acres added 3 years later by his successor, President Arap Moi, at the onset of UN Habitat in 1978. From a total staff of 330 in all in 1978, as the designated officer in Kenya today, I oversee a total of approximately 20,000 UN staff personnel, spouses and dependents, and UN assets. This includes 6,500 staff from 86 UN offices based in Kenya, 11,000 dependents, and approximately 3,000 transit staff who work in non-family duty stations in the region, but who come to Kenya as their home base for rest and recuperation to visit their families residing here. This number does not include members of the World Bank and the IMF, who we also cover for security purposes only. The impressive UN presence in Kenya will all not be possible without the strong support of and close collaboration with the host government of the Republic of Kenya, on multiple fronts, for which we say thank you. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, as headquarters to UNEP, Nairobi is today recognized as the seat of global environmental multilateralism. The United Nations Secretariat on its part, noting the critical presence of UNON as the only UN global headquarters in Africa and the Global South, is undertaking its largest capital investment of a total of almost $340 million in any single UN duty station outside of peacekeeping in Africa through UNON's two key capital projects. The A2J renovation and new office building project tagged at $66 million expected to be completed by this year. And the conference facility upgrade project, including the construction of a new state-of-the-art assembly hall estimated at $265.7 million. This project will see the construction of the only and first assembly hall built in Africa since the ones built in Geneva in 1936 under the League of Nations and at the United Nations headquarters in New York in 1946, respectively. The conference facility upgrades project is currently underway at the design phase and is expected to be completed in 2030, after which, should member states so decide and call upon Kenya, our UNON Gigiri complex could host the General Assembly. This speaks to the power of vision and transformation. As host to the UNEP global headquarters, UNON is walking the talk of environmental sustainability, with a number of initiatives underway or already in place, including being the first and only UN headquarters office to have attained the ISO 14001/2025 certification for environmental management system since 2023. Our target is for this UN Gigiri complex to be substantially net zero by 2030. To return to the topic at hand, it is an immense honor and privilege to be a part of this pivotal event, bringing together some of the brightest minds in agricultural research, science, and innovation. This marks an extraordinary opportunity for participants to reflect on our shared commitment to science-driven solutions that address the most pressing challenges of our time. As you engage in this week of collaboration, knowledge exchange, and dialogue, be reminded of the critical role of CGIAR plays in advancing food security, improving livelihood, and fostering sustainable agricultural practice globally. Collective effort to combat climate change, ensure food resilience, and empower farmers and communities depend on the strength of the partnership built and the solutions we develop together as a community and as humanity. This week will present unique privileges of learning from one another, sharing successes, brainstorming, and tackling the challenges that lie ahead. Whether through innovation, research, groundbreaking technologies, or field-tested solutions, there is no doubt that agriculture has an important role to play in serving as a solution for both people and the planet. Let this event offer opportunities to not only expand knowledge, but also forge lasting collaborations that will carry critical discussions and actions forward into the next era of agricultural science and sustainability. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all of you for commitment to charting a path towards a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable world. Once again, welcome to CGIAR Science Week. I pray it is a week filled with inspiration, innovation, and impactful action. And I look forward to learning about the incredible conversation and collaboration that will unfold in the days ahead. Thank you.
Let's give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Her Excellency Zainab Hawabangura. Up next, I'd like to call upon Dr. Ismahan El-Wafi. She's the Executive Managing Director for CGIAR. Dr. Ismahan.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Esteemed partners, esteemed guests, esteemed friend, colleagues, it's really a pleasure to be with you here today. I have been wanting to really bring the community together since the first day with CGIAR. And the reason behind is I believe in science. I believe science voice have to be the loudest. We have to spotlight knowledge and we have to use it. But let me first thank you all for being with us here online in the room and thank wholeheartedly Your Excellency Prime Cabinet Secretary Mudavadi. Thank you very much, Your Excellency Dr. Bangura from the United Nations for hosting us today. You are hosting a week of science and celebration of science. But as happy as I am, I feel responsibility to remind us all of the world we live in. And the world we live in, we are faced maybe by one of the biggest food shortage and food crisis in human history. We have still 800 million people that are hungry. We have still 350 million people that are starving. And I want you to look at pictures like these. And really, when I look at them myself, I feel depressed, I feel helpless, and I feel we should not be here in 2025. And my plea is that children are all food secure, that my children and your children wouldn't be faced with disasters like this. So I think disaster after disaster after disaster, we are sinking down. We are not coming out of this situation of malnutrition and hunger. Last year, in the last few years, we have seen a global pandemic that has ravaged the world. We have seen emerging conflict in so many parts of the world. We have seen also climate change that is accelerating and showing us how bad it is in different parts of the world. And this is bad for all of us. But imagine how bad it is for a woman that doesn't have food for her kids. So definitely the impact is much worse for those communities that are vulnerable. So I really hope that as we are looking to those pictures, we are all striving to stop it and stop it now, and particularly stop malnutrition. And that's where the science comes. Science is the hope. Science is part of the solution. And science, technology, and innovation with a broad innovation spectrum. It's not only technological innovation, it's policy innovation, it's financial innovation, it's institutional innovation, it's societal innovation. This is the solution, and that's what CGIAR, that's why CGIAR exists and continue to thrive. CGIAR was created about 5 decades ago. And it was created to provide small-scale producers in the global south with technologies and solutions. And you would ask yourself, why small-scale producers and why in the global south? Because they are the most vulnerable to all the crises I mentioned before, because they didn't get enough support so far. And yet, they are producing 85% of the food we have today. So basically, if I make it in a lame language, the small-scale producers in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, have kept the planet alive. And that's where CGIAR has grown over years. So our mandates have changed from a commodity on agroecology to a system. We have come together with partners to bring solutions, and we have been always working with national systems. I want to take the example of our work with Kenya, for example. And as you see here, our work, the Science Week, is co-hosted by CalGrow. We are working with CalGrow hand in hand, and we welcome His Excellency, the Minister. Thank you very much for joining us. So we are working with CalGrow hand in hand, complementing each other and not duplicating. And you're going to see over the week a lot of examples of how we are working in Nigeria with the national system. Thank you very much, President Goodluck, for being with us here. We have examples from Guinea. Thank you so much, Your Excellency Biavogi, for being with us. We don't work in Mauritius, but we work in other small islands, Timor-Leste, for example. And thank you for being with us, Your Excellency Amina Gurib. And more. Thank you very much, Mayaki, Your Excellency Mayaki, for being with us. And we do work in Niger, and we are very happy to do so. But we have examples from India to Tanzania to Peru to many, many countries. And I want you really to listen and take part of the discussion as we are bringing those solutions to you. So what have changed since we started working? And before I move to that, the work with the national system gives CGIAR relevance. It gives us context fit. It makes sure that what we are doing is for the countries, implemented with the countries. And that's very important. And that's one of the reasons of our success. We have seen a big shift. I think the shift happened mostly with the United Nations Food System Summit in 2021. And the shift is that there is a recognition for the importance of the agri-food system, the importance of the food, land, and water system. It got compounded, and we are very thankful to United Arab Emirates that got a declaration on food and agriculture in COP28 in 2023. It brought agriculture. So finally, in the global agenda, as people are talking about health, biodiversity, climate change, they are talking about agri-food systems. But most of the time, they talk about in a very negative tone. They tell us that we are destroying the nature. They tell us that we are putting 33% of emission. They tell us that this and that, we are using too much water. What they don't know is that we could be the solution. We could sequester more carbon. Nothing can sequester carbon except plants, soils, and oceans. We can do more if we move towards sustainability. We could reintroduce species that have been lost. We could as well bring those land that has been degraded. And we can do this only by working together, and that's where partnership is very important. CGIAR has a footprint in more than 100 countries, but we don't exist without our partners. And that partnership has to be evidence-based, it has to be data-driven, and it has to combine, as I said, innovation on technology, on policy, on finance, on market, societal, and institutions. And it has also to focus on scaling for impact. And that's where the national system is super important, is that we could scale up those solutions in those settings working with you. The other bright side is that science have seen a leapfrog really in terms of development. Look at AI and data. Only 5 years ago, or quantum computing, 5 years ago, we couldn't do what we do today. Look at omics, look at nanotechnology. They have never been as mature as they are today. And that's where CGIAR is embracing all those technologies. We have done the Green Revolution. We have averted 1 billion people from famine, but we have learned from our lessons. Now we are not talking only productivity. We are productivity with nutrition and with adaptation with co-benefit of mitigation. And for me, it's all about using it to stop malnutrition. I go back to this picture of children. I don't think any children deserve to go to bed hungry, nor that it doesn't have the right to really develop at its full potential because of malnutrition. And as an optimistic, I want to just close with a positive note. This positive note is a call for action to all of you. And I want to really talk to you. If you are a funder in the room, and I see many of you here, please fight to continue supporting our mandate. If you are a partner, keep working with us, because without you, we can't make it. If you are a farmer, please engage with us. I didn't talk enough about the knowledge, the local knowledge, indigenous knowledge, but farmers are very important. We rely on you as farmers, and we need to really make sure we continue co-designing together. And if you are a student, I'm happy I see many youth here. Please, students, go to agriculture, because we all need food, and you could be the solution in the future. And in all honesty, I used to introduce myself as a girl from the South that made it to the North. And I'm very proudly Canadian, Moroccan Canadian, as if it was a success. I want to really the kids in the South to grow up saying, I'm a girl from the South that stayed in the South. Thank you very much.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. Girl from the South. Earlier on, we were taking selfies with her, and she said, "Don't call me Ishmahan or Ishmahain. Make sure you say Ismahan." Did I get it right? By the way, any of you want to take selfies with me later on, just feel free. Okay, yeah. I just want to put it out there. Just, don't feel afraid. So protocol dictates that someone like me cannot introduce a chief guest like the one we have today. So we're scrambling around a little, and finally, I think he must have scrambled his way through traffic, or I don't know what he did to get here, but he's here.
Thank you for coming.
Please welcome on stage the Principal Secretary for Agriculture and Livestock Development, Republic of Kenya, Jonathan Mweke, who will introduce our chief guest.
His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I pride that I welcome you all to Nairobi for the CGIAR Science Week 2025. On behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, I extend our warmest greetings to each one of you gathered here today from across continents, institutions, and disciplines, all united by a shared vision for transforming food systems and building a climate-resilient, food and nutrition-secure future. Kenya is indeed honored to co-host this important gathering. CGIAR has been a long-standing and strategic partner in agricultural development and innovation, not only here in Kenya, but across the African continent. The partnership between CGIAR and our national institutions, particularly the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, continues to bear fruit in research, capacity building, and the dissemination of innovations that uplift our farmers and communities. This Science Week comes at a time when our world faces intersecting challenges: food insecurity, climate change, shrinking natural resources, and rising demand for sustainable livelihoods. We believe that solutions lie in research, collaboration, and collective action. It is therefore encouraging to see the convergence of such formidable expertise under one roof, sharing knowledge, generating ideas, and forging partnerships that will shape the future of agriculture. As we deliberate over the coming days, let us be inspired not only by science and data, but by the lived experiences of the smallholder farmers who depend on these innovations. Let our discussions be driven by impact, inclusivity, and urgency. And now, it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome our chief guest, His Excellency, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, indeed, a distinguished leader and champion of sustainable development, to officially address and open the CGIAR Science Week 2025. Karibu sana, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Mweke. Your Excellencies, good luck, Jonathan, former President of the Republic of Nigeria. Dr. Amina Goab Fakmi, former President of Mauritius. His Excellency Mohamed Bavugui, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Guinea. Your Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, former Prime Minister of Niger and African Union Special Envoy for Food Systems. Your Excellency Dr. Zainab Hawa Bangura of the United Nations Office in Nairobi, and the girl from the south who moved to the north. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor and privilege to represent His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, during this opening ceremony of the inaugural Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research, Science Week 2025. He himself is a scientist. In fact, the first scientist president that Kenya has had. And he would have really liked to be here. So let me pretend to be a scientist for a minute. Kenya is proud to host this landmark event, focusing on innovation and partnerships for food, nutrition, and climate-secure future that brings together the world's leading minds in agricultural research, innovation, and policy. Let me take this opportunity on behalf of the government and the people of Kenya to welcome you all to Nairobi, especially those delegates who have traveled from across the globe. Karibuni, Kenya. Enjoy the alluring beauty and hospitality of our country, the cradle of humanity, and a hub of innovation in agri-food systems. It is also befitting to appreciate CGIAR, Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, CALO, and the International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI, and all the partners who have organized this distinguished forum. The theme of this year's assembly is timely, considering the unprecedented environmental and food security challenges that the world faces today. The only way forward is through science-driven solutions and multi-stakeholder partnerships. Agriculture is the backbone of Africa's economy, providing employment to over 60% of our population, significantly contributing to national output and ensuring food security for millions of people. The sector faces immense challenges from climate change and extreme weather conditions, land degradation, soil infertility, food insecurity and malnutrition, post-harvest losses, and limited access to technology, financing, and investments, and of course, conflicts. This Science Week is a defining moment. It gives us an opportunity to engage on how to mitigate these challenges. It is a call to action for governments, researchers, private sector players, and development partners to chart a new path for sustainable agriculture and resilient food systems in low and middle income countries. Kenya is proud to host this global forum. Our collaboration with CGIAR dates back more than 5 decades. Beginning in the early 1970s, Kenya hosts staff from several CGIAR centers, International Livestock Research Institute, Alliance for Biodiversity International, International Food Policy Research Institute, International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, International Water Management Institute, International Rice Research Institute, the International Potato Center, Wild Fish Center, International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center, and International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, hosted by the World Agroforestry Center. These centers have worked in close partnership with Kenya's institutions, including KALRO, national and county governments, universities, the Kenya Dairy Board, to develop groundbreaking innovations such as the following: novel vaccines for animal diseases, drought-tolerant crop varieties and livestock breeds, sustainable natural resource management solutions, climate-smart advisory services and innovations, evidence-based policies transforming smallholder farming, transformative dairy sector innovations, index-based insurance, livestock insurance, and food safety solutions that help control aflatoxins. Through collaboration, the CGIAR Kenya has also significantly enhanced its research capacity. Thousands of Kenyan researchers have benefited from world-class training programs, skills enhancement, and access to advanced research facilities. At the same time, CGIAR scientists have gained contextual knowledge to enhance their research impact at scale. Kenya is fully committed to supporting agricultural research and innovation. Our bottom-up economic transformation agenda prioritizes the agri-food system as a key pillar of economic transformation. We believe that transforming this sector will drive poverty reduction and job creation, improved livelihoods and food security, gender equality and inclusion, and climate change adaptation and environmental sustainability. Kenya's agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy and the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project are just two examples of initiatives aligned with Vision 2030 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, ensuring that no Kenyan goes to bed hungry. The task ahead demands deeper collaboration between governments and key stakeholders in the agricultural research ecosystem, including researchers, extension and advisory services, providers, farmers, policymakers, private sector, and development partners. You will experience the dividends of such collaboration when you visit ILRI's Kapiti Farm and Wildlife Conservancy, where ILRI and its partners are pioneering research in climate adaptation, greenhouse gas emissions reduction, livestock, wildlife interactions, and ecosystem restoration. Ladies and gentlemen, as you engage in meaningful discussions this week, I encourage you to also explore the beauty of Kenya with its exceptional diversity. Nairobi is the only capital city with a national park, home to lions, rhinos, and giraffes, just a short drive from your hotel. The Masai Mara, Amboseli, and Tsavo national parks offer breathtaking landscapes and majestic African wildlife. The pristine beaches of Mombasa, Diani, and Lamu provide a perfect retreat for those who are not afraid of water. Adventurers can embark on a hike up Mountain Kenya for an unforgettable experience. Let me now conclude by encouraging you to be bold in your ideas, strategic in your partnerships, and ambitious in your actions. You have a great opportunity during this gathering to make decisions that will contribute to Africa's food security. Your insightful discussions, fruitful collaborations, and transformative solutions will help shape the future of food security in Kenya, Africa, and the world at large. Ladies and gentlemen, before I walk off the podium, let me truly acknowledge the erstwhile leadership of Dr. Bangura. She has been a very dedicated leader for the UN family in the Global South. And we really appreciate that. We want to salute you and to say that other than what she has indicated, we are also having some conversation with the UN so that over and above what is in existence, we can also have a humanitarian and logistics hub here in Kenya, linked to Mombasa and to Naivasha to serve the region. We pray and hope and trust that someday that will also come to pass. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. You know, the Prime Cabinet Secretary was talking about the only capital on the planet with a national park in it. He can also recommend a couple of watering holes if you guys are interested later on. By the way, he holds a whole bunch of other portfolios, not just Prime Cabinet Secretary. He's also Minister, Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs. Yesterday, I was reading the news and I saw him in Kigali and I said, there's no way this guy is making it back today in time. And look at you. You made it. Well done. Well done. Well done. All right, folks, we're going to get right down to the panel. First panel is about the Council of the Wise. And this one will be moderated by Professor Lindiwe Majelesibanda. She's the chair of the CGIAR Integrated Board. And I'd like to ask the following people to come on stage and take up their positions here for that panel. First up, His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, former President, Nigeria. Next up, Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, former President, Mauritius. Yes, anyone, sir, anyone. His Excellency Mohamed Biavogui, former Prime Minister, Republic of Guinea. And finally, His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Hassan Mayaki, AU Special Envoy for Food Systems and former Prime Minister of Niger. Professor Lindiwe, floor is yours.
Thank you, Jeff. I know you're a tough master. How much time do we have?
You have 3 minutes.
That's okay. That's more than what we... Thank you very much, Excellencies, for gracing this occasion. You are the panel of the wise. And I'm sure everybody is looking for wisdom. This session focuses on science, the challenges out there, the innovations that you have supported. We had the eloquent description of the high office, the highest on the land that you've had. But most important, the policy interventions that you made. I'm not going to make it easy for you. I'll start by saying we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis. The Prime Cabinet Secretary called on us to be bold. We're in a crisis because of climate change. We're in a crisis because of environmental and health degradation, biodiversity loss. We're in a crisis because of gender inequality, no jobs for our youth, nutrition insecurity. Dr. Ismahane spoke about children going to bed hungry, and most of all, poverty. And we know that agriculture and food systems hold the answer. So I'm going to be brutal and say, do you guys really get it? Do Do you know about science that it can solve these problems? Because what I've listed are the 5 impact areas of CGIAR. Dr. Mayaki, you are Mr. Africa. You are Mr. Africa because you are the African Union's Special Envoy for Food Systems. What are these challenges and what innovations do you see as potential answers? 2 minutes, I'll go around the panel, 2 minutes each, just set the pitch. Do you know about these challenges or you are living in a different world? Yeah. And in terms of innovations, do you know about science? Over to you, Dr. Mayaki.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm extremely pleased and honored to be here. And I think the reason why I'm in this Council of Wise is maybe because I'm 73 years old. So what's the age is the factor, I think. Well, I would like to start by a small contextualization.
Yep.
In the 60s, the whole population of the African continent was about 300 million. And we had a relative self-sufficiency. Today we are 1.5 billion. Mm-hmm. And in between the 60s and today, a lot of things have happened. Yep. Progresses and improvements have been made. We have seen through the African Union strategies being implemented continentally, regionally, and nationally. We have seen our networks of research, science, and innovation really get a significant momentum. But the demographics have eaten the gains that we have made. So the conclusion that needs to be drawn from that picture is that we need to accelerate. And as Isman frequently says, we need to do more with less. Acceleration is the key word. We know the challenges in terms of productivity, production, land degradation, climate, etc. We have the technical answers. The question now is, how do we add political solutions to these technical solutions? The scientific solutions, the innovative solutions, they need political solutions. And I was saying earlier in a discussion—
Give me an example of a political solution.
A political solution
a lot of
means
aspiring
that
politicians in the audience.
Two issues, and I'm going to throw a ball in the correctness of the— we need more leaders who are aware of the usefulness of science. If we look at other continents, we can see it. His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary was mentioning the science dimension of President Ruto, and we have 2 scientists. But if you look all over the continent, we have very few leaders who are scientists. Science is a mindset which focuses on problem solving. And I think this mindset is a key issue in order to solve the challenges that we face. I will just take an example. When I was head of government, anytime we're looking at, during the budget sessions, the budget of the research centers, the level of attention was not really sufficient. Until we faced, as a Sahelian country, sound crisis, and we realized that science could be an accelerator. By realizing that science could be an accelerator, then it became a political instrument. So I think this is the shift that needs to be taken. We need not only scientific solutions, innovative solutions, research, But we need political solutions who think, adopt, integrate the fact that science is a political instrument.
Dr. Mayake, this is a quote I'm coining for social media, and I hope you are brave enough to say you said it. Number one, we are in a crisis, and Dr. Mayake says we need a political solution. I ask, what is the political solution? Your answer is, we need more leaders who are scientists, because scientists solve problems.
Absolutely.
End of quote.
Absolutely.
I will go to Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim. You've been put on the spot. We need political solutions. We need scientists. I won't say as political leaders. Maybe let me say it, because Kenya started by that. You've been there. What are these challenges and what are the innovations that you want to put on the table based on your scientific problem-solving nature and profession? Mike, please.
I think it's on now.
Good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think first of all, I have to congratulate you and myself for being just under parity, 40% of the panel today. I'm also going to link up to what Ismahani has said earlier on. I'm also a girl from the South who got educated in the North, but who thrived and stayed in the South. So I am very happy on that score. Now, you've spoken about the challenges. I will start this conversation with a small anecdote, a small story. Once I was in the United States, and there were some policymakers in the room, and we're talking about brain drain. Brain drain from the United States this time to the global South. And this American policymaker was saying, you know, we have no problems with Africans. They will never leave the United States. We had some issues with Indians, managed to get the conditions right, and they stayed. But we are having problems with the Chinese. They're going, and they're not coming back. And they don't want to come back. So what we have to tease out in terms of a lesson from this is that what has China done in terms of building ecosystems that Africa is not doing still? That's the main challenge. And I think, as you say, madam, is that when you have leaders who are scientists at the helm, they can see through this. They want to build the ecosystem which will need to attract our fellow talented Africans back to African soil. And when you have leaders who are scientists, they can also look at the quality of education being imparted to our children. Is that education fit for purpose? The education I got as a child is no longer relevant for my daughter. It will certainly be irrelevant for my grandchild one day. Rote learning is out. Learning by discovering, learning by doing is on, especially in the advent of AI, where we'll need all the talents on board, all the data, and also regulation to some extent, but I'm not quite happy with the regulation because by the time we regulate, the technology has moved on so fast that we'll not be able to do it. The second challenge, Madam Chair, is that when we look at the issues for Africa, African agriculture, I'm sorry, there are many centers across the world here, but as I stand on African soil and being an African, I will try to drive it through an African lens. Where are the women in Africa in agriculture? What I'm going to say next is not a political statement, it's a fact. Women feed Africa. Where are the technology? Where are the empowerment of empowerment for our African girls and women? How do we empower them with the technologies? How do we empower them with the capacity to go and open a bank account? How are they empowered to access land? These are issues we have to tackle with because after all, African food is produced mostly by smallholder farmers, and many of them are women. So looking at the challenges across Africa, we really have to look at it through the gender lens. And the third point I want to address is how do we bring our youth to agriculture, because the stereotype still prevails in terms of agriculture is still that woman with a baby in her back, with a hoe, digging dry ground in an African environment with the sun, very harsh condition. Yet this is not agriculture as it is. How do we break the stereotype? How do we provide the ecosystem and the conditions that will bring the youth to Africa? Because at the end of the day, the agriculture sector in Africa is a $1 trillion business. So we need to speak to these people, to make them entrepreneurs, because the dream of every youth in Africa is to get a job. We need to change that narrative. We need to make them become entrepreneurs within Africa, within the continent, through the tools of science to provide solutions.
Thank you. Thank you. So taking a cue from we need political solutions and more scientists on the ground, China, 100% score. India, 100 or 85. Africa, 0. Can we get more going back to give back to their own continent? But you said more than that. Can we have an education that's fit for purpose? Can we have women empowerment? And can we have youth as drivers of the food systems research, development, and innovation that we aspire to drive as CGIAR? Thank you very much for those. Let me go now to His Excellency Mohamed Biavogu. You've been big in terms of supporting science. We've had 2 interventions. What's your take? What are those challenges and what are those opportunities that we should be grasping now in order to leapfrog the whole world, but maybe more specific to your own continent? But we are speaking at CGIAR from a global perspective, but Africa is the continent that's been left behind. And that's why this panel of the wise is an introspection of you Africans. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Lindiwe. First of all, let me thank our host, the government of Kenya, for the fantastic hospitality we have benefited from since we are here. And also thanking you, the CGIAR, for inviting me in this meeting. Yes, the bad news is that we still have challenges. And as Mayaki said now, we don't respond to the needs of our people in terms of food, enough food and nutritious food. Yes, our lands are degrading very fast, and the response is not adequate. To date, we are still using approximately 20 kilograms of fertilizer per hectare, when others are using more than 137 kilograms per hectare. Yes, climate change is giving us erratic rains, it's giving us drought, giving us floods, and we don't have, on the ground at least, the right responses. And then our farmers' lack of access to finance, access to technology, etc. And moreover, those who are really doing the agriculture on the ground, women, they are excluded. And youths are being told the who is still there, and they don't want it. So they leave. That's the bad news. But luckily, there is a good news, very good news, which is much better. There is a lot of innovation all over. I had 40 years of my life in supporting the agricultural sector, particularly in Africa. And I see the difference. My first time in Kenya was in 1983. And I can see the difference. Today, you see technology. Through technology, people have access to the market. You see infrastructure. You have roads. Most Africans are very far from an accessible road to the market. But you can see the difference in Kenya, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in many countries. The number of those closer to the market are increasing. We are seeing new policies in terms of financial inclusion. We are seeing targeted financing for women. We are seeing digitalization through drones, et cetera, et cetera. And so innovation is happening. New seeds, new technologies are on the shelves. The fundamental issue today is how to move from the lab to the ground, to the land, as they say, and how to move from the land to the plate. And here, it is a matter of policy. It is a matter for our leaders to be more bolder, more practical, and more inclusive. So the farmers are courageous. They are doing it. They are trying. The researchers are bringing us a lot of technology. Innovation is going from everywhere. The young people are creating platforms. A lot of these technologies are homegrown. They are here. So the next step to our leaders is let's be bold, meet the strength of the farmers, and let's be practical, and let's be inclusive.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So your quotable quote is LLP, from the lab to the land to the plate. That's a systems approach. That's why we're in the business of food systems transformation. As CGIAR, we aim to transform the food system, the land system, and the water system so that we have food and nutrition security globally. Thank you for pitching that one for us. Please tweet that one, LLP, lab to land to plate. Jeff, you said you are Mr. Twitter. Thank you. Now to Nigeria. Over to you, Excellency. Good luck, Abele Jonathan. You've heard your colleagues. We've listed the challenges. We've highlighted some of the technologies and innovations that are out there. Why are we still hungry? Why are we still poor? Why are we failing to be climate smart? Why are we not preserving our biodiversity? The list is long. What is happening? Over to you, Excellency.
Thank you. Let me briefly appreciate CGIAR for putting up this Science Week together, and for all the partners and those of you who are here. It's a great thing. And what we are discussing, when we talk about the president being a scientist or a technologist and others, I'll make brief comments on that. If you look, whenever we are discussing issues of hunger, it makes me remember Thomas Malthus, the person who proposed.
Thomas?
Malthus,
okay.
The person who proposed that into the 18th century as 17-something, that human population growth is exponential and food production is growing at arithmetic means. And of course, there will be starvation, diseases, and others that will consume human communities and populations. And those who say that concept didn't come the way he thought, or said, as at that time, he didn't know the involvement of science, what science will do in terms of food production, which is true. We know the area of the world is still the same, the area of our country is still the same, the water bodies are still the same, the carrying capacity is the same. In fact, the water bodies are even silting, so they're even getting less. So in that case, how do you produce food that will meet up the growing population? We must adopt science and technology. And so no doubt about that. But I don't believe actually that we must elect presidents that have science background or technology background. I have a little background in science. I have a doctorate degree in hydrobiology, which is the biology of water bodies, wetlands, rivers, creeks, ponds, lakes, and estuaries. So I have a little background in terms of science, but I don't believe that we have to elect presidents that are scientists before we can do what is right. I think the key thing,
which ones,
I
what
see
should we do?
from the little I know is that probably in Africa, probably not 100% in Africa, is that our leaders spend more time thinking about how to lead, how to get, not how to lead, spend more time on how to get to leadership or hold on to leadership than thinking about the people. Because if you spend more time thinking about how will I stay here or how will I take over the chair, you have little time on the people. And if you really think about the people, you must think about different options. So the issue is not whether you have science background or you're a technology saver, but you have in your country experts in all these areas that can help you. In terms of agriculture, for the 5 years I was the president of Nigeria, we did very well, I can say that. Because I picked the best, one of the best in the country, the present ADB president, Dr. Adeshino, who is currently the ADB president. I picked him as my agri minister. And I took over as a president 2010, but I brought him in 2011 when I won the election. In Nigeria, for example, at the beginning of the budget year, the first thing agri minister will bring to you is a file on how to buy fertilizer. Because the fertilizer procurement was scandalous. And people were making money out of it. And the fertilizer was not even getting to the farmers. Akin did not bring any file for that. Because he's a scientist, he's an agri-economist, not core science, but an agri-economist. But because he knows what to do. So in all areas, be it education, be it health, being in infrastructure, if you have the presidents don't work alone. The presidents work with cabinet ministers and other heads of parastatals. And if you appoint the competent people, not appointing people just because you know them, or your friends know them, or because they belong to your political parties. Some of the people are appointed as ministers in my cabinet. Even when we were doing the voting, we were not even around.
You recalled them.
But I knew that they will help the country, and I brought them in to hold various portfolios. And that is how we succeeded in managing our economy. I brought in Nwanze, for example.
Wow.
He was in Washington, so he was not there when we were voting.
Thank you.
But I know we needed such a person to manage the economy of Nigeria. Akin was not even in the country, he was in Kenya. But I wanted him to come because it was the best I know that can manage the agriculture.
Well done, Mr. President.
Yes, we adopt technology, no doubt about that, because without science and technology, we cannot move anywhere.
So you've been redeemed. You know science, you were hiding that you're a scientist.
The first thing you need, even before the science and technology will work, is, well, I agree to some extent, the political issue. The political willingness of the president to move the country forward.
Yep.
That commitment must be there.
Thank you.
And when the president has that commitment in any sector, now we're talking about agriculture, we look for the best people to manage the agri system for him, and he will listen to them.
Yep.
So that is critical.
Thank you. So let me package that one. We went on a round where in the voting table, we said it would be better to have a scientist for a head of state. And you've come in and said you've got small science, small, which we've never heard about. I'm glad you've pronounced it, but it's big because that's the new agenda, biodiversity. But on top of that, the president has to bring or surround themselves with the right people. And your legacy is clear. Ngozi, 100%. Akin, 100%. Their legacy lives on, thanks to you who knew that you needed the best brains to use their knowledge to be game changers in the country. Congratulations on that. So we don't have much time. You have passed your exam that you know the value of science. Because this is a science conference, we've got skeptics here who say these guys just want to stay in power and prolong their time. But you have given us a live example of you got in and said, can science come here where I am and guide me? So, question now is, can you educate my audience? You've all mentioned policymaking as a game changer. What is policymaking? Can you demystify it? We hired you, we voted you to be our policymakers, but we're in this problem and you're telling us policy can be a game changer. I just want crisp, clear definition of policy making. What were you doing when you were in power? In just 1 minute each, what is policy making and what big policy game changer did you put on the ground? I've got 5 minutes to end this panel. Please don't get me fired on the job. I'm asking you about something you lived, breathed, and worked on. Can you educate my audience? What is policy making and what is the big policy game changer that we need for a time such as now? Same order, over to you, Excellency Mayanki.
No, thank you, Lindiwe. We tend to think that policy making is a rational process. You know, you have objectives, you have means of implementation, monitoring and evaluation, feedback, etc. That's what is taught in business schools and public administration school. But policy making is not a rational process. It is part rational, but it is part negotiations, power relationships. And that's where the political priority comes in. For policy making to respond to the needs of a population in order to reduce vulnerability, to increase sovereignty, science, in that case, needs to be a political priority.
Yeah. Thank you. Over to you, Excellency. Oh no, I'll go to same order. Dr. Amina Gurib-Fakim, Excellency.
The policy of all policies, especially in Africa, is to provide for the youth, to make sure that the youth doesn't become a bane, but a boon. And through the youth, we can build Africa, we can build Africa's food sovereignty. And through the youth, we can make them more entrepreneur so that they can become job creators and not just job seekers.
Excellent. Excellency Biavogu.
Yes. Policy must be contextualized, meaning that policy making must always be evidence-based, and evidence comes from science. And then it should be inclusive. You cannot bring a solution to someone without his participation in designing that solution. So, to be simple, policy making is to be bold in using evidence-based facts, science, and inclusiveness to bring solutions that people are waiting for.
Are you saying I should forget everything Gogo Mayembe, my grandmother, taught me?
I said inclusive. Therefore,
thank you.
Is your response.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Excellency. Good luck, Jonathan.
Thank you. The issue of policy, you look at it from two ways. For a policy to be successful, There are two things to it. The policy itself must be a good one and must be the one that people will see the benefits associated with it. And there must be a total commitment from the leadership of that country, right from the president down, to make sure the policy succeeds. A number of policies that we make while in offices that are just in the files, and nobody really push it. Because we're talking about food systems, so I'll mention two in Nigeria. We had a policy of what we call the cassava bread. We wanted to reduce the wheat importation and substitute it with a percentage like 10 to 20% of cassava flour. We had another policy to make sure that young people embrace agriculture. Because like in Africa, most of our food are produced by the smallholders. And the smallholders farmers are very aged that live in the rural areas and so on. And that is not attractive to young people. How do we make sure young people embrace agriculture? And it's the young people that can adopt technology easily, not the old people. It's the young people that can use the smartphone, that can access information all over the world, that can use fertilizer or other inputs. So we have to encourage them. And we did that very well. I personally was involved in a number of meetings with the young people, not just my Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you. I'm stopping you there because you are on a good note, young people, and there is a lot of them here. Lots of tweetable tweets there. Policy making has to be rational. It's messy. It's not logical. I always call it, it's like sausage making. If you are an animal scientist and a farmer and a butcher like me, you never eat a sausage when you see when it's being made. That's how policies are. It's got to be contextualized. It's got to be evidence-based, informed by science. Those affected must participate in developing those policies. But most important, there must be commitment from the leadership to ensure implementation of the policies. However, for a time such as now, the billboard we want to leave as a panel of the wise is that it should provide for the youth, because it's the youth who should be empowered to be job creators, who will lead the technologies, take us from 40 kilograms of fertilizer to 150. But we, the over 60s, can't do it anymore. So billboard, panel of the wise says, the youth are the future for your continent. Science must be at the forefront. We need leaders who respect science and use the innovations, create the conducive policy environment that promotes the uptake of these technologies, but follows through by providing finances for implementation, but review of the policies. Let me end by just thanking our panel of the wise and saying, they will be with us. You have the wisdom, follow them through and hold them accountable. They're still very powerful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take it.
Let's have another round of applause for the panelists, the Council of the Wise. And to Professor Lindiwe, very, very good moderation. Well done, Lindiwe. Our next panel is entitled Innovations and Partnerships. I'd like to call on stage Dr. Manuel Otero. He's the Director General of the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture. I'd like to call upon Surita Sandasham. She's President and CEO of Haifa International. Professor Wendy Umberger, CEO, Australian Centre for International Agriculture Research. Her Excellency Nosipo Nauskajin Jazile, Chairperson, Committee on World Food Security. And finally, Ms. Fatima Al-Mula, Project Specialist, International Affairs Office, Presidential Court in the UAE. Please have a seat. Please welcome them all. Now, I am the traffic police in this, folks, so I'm going to make sure we're on time with this. Before we get to my first question, I'd like to know from each and every one of you in 2 sentences, because people here may not know what you do. So in 2 sentences, Dr. Manuel Otero, what do you do? What is the International Institute? Is it off? Two sentences.
I would like to recognize the excellencies, the authorities, Dr. Ismahane, members of the diplomatic corps. 3 principles for my work at ICA. First of all, thinking farmers, they are the future for the transformation of agriculture. Secondly, science and innovation as a main input for public policies. And last but not least, agriculture as a critical part for the solution for the main problems affecting humanity. Thank you.
Sarita Sandosham.
So we're a global organization working on 19 countries to address hunger and poverty. And most of you know us as a livestock organization. But in the 80 years, we have actually expanded to look at agriculture in an ecosystem way. And we put smallholder farmers at the center.
Professor Wendy Umberger.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. ACR, or the Australian Centre for International Agriculture Research, is an Australian government agency, and we fund research for development through partnerships, extending Australia's Innovation Centre or multilateral research organizations such as the CGIAR centres. And we also consider ourselves, or when we talk domestically, we say we're science diplomacy. Thank you.
Your Excellency Nosipo Jazile.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Nosipo Jazile from South Africa. I'm the permanent representative to the United Nations Agency in Rome, and currently the chairperson of the Committee on World Food Security, which is a United Nations platform for intergovernmental policy development for food security and nutrition. Again, development of policy from a holistic perspective based on science evidence and also defining exactly what those challenges that we need to address entail, with the inclusion of key stakeholders, in particular civil society and also the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Fatima Al-Mula.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. We at the International Affairs Office are a small strategic office at the Presidential Court of the UAE, and we manage investments and projects in agriculture innovation, as well as the relationship with the Gates Foundation and the CGIAR. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for that introduction, everybody. Appreciate it. Dr. Manuel Otero, how can we scale up regional innovations globally?
Yes, let me start saying that Latin American Caribbean region from now on LAC is a key region for global food security, representing almost 20% of total exports. This has been the result of collaborating efforts, transforming scientific development into local and regional innovation. Just as an example, the germplasm and food practices resulted in a significant increase in yields of rice and wheat. But we are witnesses a new scenario, and we cannot afford living off the glories of the past. At the LAC region, we have enough quantity and quality of institutions, Fontagro, Foragro, Procesur, that make up the science and innovation ecosystem. In some cases, it would be necessary to redefine the mission, but more importantly, to promote horizontal cooperation. diminishing the inward-looking approach of the past. For working together, it's imperative to have clear objectives and to know what are the mutual benefits, committing ourselves. In other words, if it were an orchestra, we would require more instruments and playing the same symphony. Let me conclude emphasizing the spaces of complementarity between CG and ICA, since the institution that I represent is closer to the ministers, is closer to the policies. So there is the possibility of establishing and deepening a virtuous circle between science and politics. Just to conclude, a few days ago concluded the Foragro meeting at ICA headquarters with three main conclusions. One, develop one roadmap to harness cutting-edge science, technology, and innovation to speed up the transformation of agriculture in LAC. Second, create and implement a platform to organize and share knowledge, good practices, and lessons learned as a mechanism to promote dialogue and cooperation. And finally, define and implement a strategy to enhance the region's participation in major global forums. There is no more time to waste. Thank you.
No more time to waste. Sarita Sandoshan, how can community partnerships support climate-smart agriculture?
So at Heifer International, what's critical is to walk alongside the smallholder farmer who really is on the front lines of climate change. And what we have learned in our partnerships in 3 regions around the world is that you have to take a holistic approach. You have to work with governments, you have to work with the private sector, you have to work with research technology, and putting farmer at the center. And so one example is in Kenya, we've worked with 625,000 smallholder farmer families to get to a sustainable living income. We're working to provide training for gender inclusion, for youth inclusion who are the dividend for Africa, and also in ensuring that we are providing training on climate smart agriculture. We're not doing this in isolation. This is being done in alignment with the Kenyan government, who want to ensure that 2 million smallholder farmer families go from food deficit to producers of food surplus. We know food insecurity is a huge issue. Another example is in Nigeria, where we're working with young entrepreneurs on weather insurance. They're weather insurance providers to our smallholder farmers who work on crops like maize and rice. And these farmers don't have to pay until they harvest. And what that does is it ensures that the risk is lowered. But what we've learned from our insurance providers like Pula Advisors and also Thrive Agric in Nigeria is that 40,000 of these smallholder farmers have not only increased productivity of the crops, maize and rice, but they've also doubled their household incomes, which has been a tremendous increase. So for us at Heifer, the issue is looking at community-based partnerships is also looking at the intersection of science, engaging with farmer knowledge and community leadership. This is going to reach the impact that all of us have talked about so far today.
And 625,000 farmers, you're going to scale up?
250,000 farmers. So yes, we want to scale up with the government.
What's the final number?
Well, the government, so we're doing this in alignment with the government. They're looking at 2 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dr. Wendy Umberger, how to accelerate science adoption in food systems?
Yeah, so how to accelerate adoption has been an issue for as long as I can remember, I guess. And there's this huge literature on adoption in the agricultural economics, which is my scientific background. But I think the key word there is it's more than collaboration. It's actually, instead of collaboration, I think we should change that word to partnerships. And partnerships, it's a buzzword now, right? SDG 17 about partnerships. But really, what do partnerships mean? And I'm lucky the ACR is founded on research partnerships, capacity development partnerships, but really understanding who to partner with, and then understanding the needs of those partners. But I think this also requires more than just partnerships, and they're all interrelated, these points I want to say. It requires understanding that innovation value chain and the ecosystem around it. So by the value chain, it's not just about the science, but it's about those end users. And oftentimes, having done a lot of research on adoption in my previous life, for every different technology, there's a unique issue in that value chain that might be stopping or blocking the adoption, or once people adopt, disadoption. So what are those issues? Oftentimes it's missing services, it's the other things that you need to co-adopt. So really understanding that innovation value chain, what other partners are needed, public or private sector, what policies, what innovation system. Then it's really important in that value chain that it's research and development. So we're a research for development agency. So all the time when we're designing projects, we're thinking about who can be that development partner. Who's that development partner? Our budget is relatively small to some of the development agencies like Gates Foundation or the larger government agencies. So we have to, if we want to see things adopted, the research adopted, we have to be thinking about what is the right development partner? And we do that through co-design and co-implementation. And the other thing, we're absolutely committed as an agency to capacity development of the scientists, of the extension workers, of the government institutions, not just capacity development on technology. Increasingly what we get asked for is technology, or capacity development on leadership, on management, on understanding climate issue, on policy, on economics, all those other things beyond just the really basic, not basic, but technology. The other key thing is adaptation, learning as we go, being in there for the long haul, because we know that the innovation cycle is not short. It requires many years, and at least 10 usually, and we need to be there as a committed partner in the long haul, continuing to listen, multiple, and we have partnership health checks, and that's really important.
Indeed. Nosipo Jazile, how does CFS support policy alignment for innovation?
Thank you once again. Starting with, if science brings us hope, strengthening partnerships that align the scientific innovation in agri-food systems with inclusive global policies is more urgent than ever. And one asks the question, how do we reimagine a future for the people to meet their human rights, a prosperous planet with digital innovation? The Committee on World Food Security, which is the CFS, plays a unique and a vital role in this context. It being an intergovernmental platform with about 141 member states, including civil society, including the private sector mechanism, the philanthropic mechanisms, including the high-level panel of experts that I mentioned earlier on, and CGIAR is one of those partners. So therefore, innovation, for it to be a successful ecosystem, it must be characterized by active participation of key stakeholders, be it the research institutions and universities, the family farmers, the indigenous knowledge holders, smallholder farmers, and the entrepreneurs, and of course, as I already mentioned, governments together with civil society and the corporations in agriculture and foundations. And earlier on, during the first panel, we also got a sense that we need to be able to define what we are trying to develop a policy for. And this is also informed by the noble understanding that what is measured gets improved. You cannot measure, you will not be able to improve. So we need bold initiatives to accelerate and streamline innovation. Of course, as already mentioned by our earlier leaders, bold leadership is what we need. Our policies should be driving behaviors. And in the context of CFS, all the policies are informed or influenced by the principle of the right to food. So giving it that human rights face is what is more different and unique. And the policy relevance, therefore, has to be moving beyond the business as usual. In essence, as I already indicated, being evidence-based in problem definition. What are those areas in food security and nutrition that are lagging? And do we have a shared understanding of that and what informs that? And moving beyond then defining the problem, the methodology that we follow through within the CFS, both from the recommendations from the high-level panel of experts, which is an independent panel, and the Secretariat is also coordinated through the CFS Secretariat in FAO. The CGIAR, one of the contributions would include particularly the evidence that comes from the various territories where they are operating. At the heart of this science policy interface is the independence of that information. Again, because policies have the emotional face, we need to foreground both the issues that are sensitive and emotional and be able to arrive at some level of objectivity. And we then negotiate the policies and reach agreements as member states on what, as a minimum, we can agree to. So this is in essence what I see as innovation. Again, stakeholder management is an innovation in itself. One, because we are talking about a coordination and integration across sectors, because agri-food systems is not just a matter for agriculture. We were having a conference or a summit a week ago in Paris about nutrition for growth. And we are also saying there are social dividends and economic dividends in defining what crops we grow and when and how, both in the context of climate variation and of course in the context of what is called today agro-biodiversity. So those are the initial reflections that I can give. Thank you.
Are you sure you don't have any more? Thank you, Nasipo. Fatima Al-Mula, how does the UAE align food, water, and climate action?
Thank you, Jeffrey. I want to tell you guys a little story, and I'll try to be quickly. When we talk about aligning food security and climate in the UAE, we think about coherence and ambition. And these are things that, you know, in the United Arab Emirates, we're a young country, and these are things that we had to learn over time and very slowly. And it started when the government appointed the Minister of State for Food Security. And at that time, we were like, what does this mean, you know, Minister of State for Food Security? So it really forced us to create coherence and look inwards and develop ourselves domestically. What does a little country like the UAE have, and what does agriculture mean to us? What does food security mean to us? And that later on became our pathway to creating our national food security strategy. So once we had our feet on the ground and understood what it meant domestically, we started to look internationally. What are the things that we could contribute? How can we listen to people? How can we contribute to the agricultural sector? And this is where ambition was now raised. And we saw that at COP28 with the COP28 Food and Agriculture Declaration. I'm sure many of you know Chris Hamill, who was part of the team of bringing together 160 heads of government to agree on something in food and agriculture, which was a huge success. And we'll see that also with the UN Water Conference. But with that said, we had to think of long-term. What do we want to do? How can the UAE be part of the conversation on agriculture transformation. And that's when the UAE joined forces with the Gates Foundation on agriculture innovation. And we became the first country to join the CGIAR out of that partnership. So we really believe in the vehicle of, the importance of the vehicle of the CGIAR, and hope that a lot of countries also follow suit. And just lastly, the reason that I'm sharing this story is because we've done all of this in the last maybe 6 or 7 years. So it's possible for it to, for any country to do it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great story. Panelists, we're going to be hearing a lot during the week about innovations and partnerships. So be prepared for that. It's going to be we're going to be debating those, and it's going to be great. And, there's going to be a lot of contributions from scientists in the room. But for now, I'd like you all to take your seats. Thank you very much. Give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it. You can put that way. That way. Thank you. Thank you. That way. Yeah. All right. Up next, the session is called Science for the Future. I'd like to call upon Dr. Rachel Lambert, Senior Advisor, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FODO in the UK, Ms. Nkateko Langa, Research Officer, International Water Management Institute, Professor Holger Menke. He's a Chair, Independent Science for Development Council. Please take your seats. Thank you very much. And like I was saying before with the other panelists, folks, I just want to know for the audience, real quick, 2 sentences. Dr. Rachel Lambert, what'd you do at the at FODO UK?
Hello. I work for the UK's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, and I lead our work on research for development in the area of food security and nutrition. We fund research and development programs and partnerships in that area, food and agriculture.
Excellent. Nkateko Langa.
Afternoon, everyone. I work at the International Water Management Institute, known as IMI, as a research officer, future creative technologies for agricultural innovation, where I explore the use of digital, creative, immersive, interactive technologies, such as virtual reality, augmented reality, digital twins, to help solve real-world problems. Thank you.
Dr. Holger Menke.
Thank you for
No.
Thank you for the invitation. I chair the Independent Science for Development Council, which is a council of 8 independent scientific experts, and we advise the CGIAR on research and research strategy.
Dr. Menke, I'm going to ask you to speak up a little bit next time we come around to you, if you don't mind. So, Dr. Rachel Lambert, what do funders need from research institutions?
So first, I think we need to acknowledge we're in a very different place. We're working in a very different international development landscape than we were a few months ago. But even in such a changing context, I think the need for high quality, impactful science and innovation, good technologies, evidence has never been more important. It's never been more critical. And so this Science Week is incredibly timely. But as that landscape changes, we also have to change with it as research organizations, as research funders. I think we're going to have to demonstrate a huge amount of agility in a very challenging environment. So 3 things I think we need from research institutions. The first is to prioritize. It will be even more important than it was before in a funding constrained environment. Really focusing on the best and the most impactful, the most relevant science, really targeted at the biggest global challenges that we have. And for the CGIAR, that will mean also working best to its own comparative advantage. I think the second one is bringing a really laser-like focus on science for impact, whether that's thinking about how we aggregate findings and evidence and package it in a way that's most accessible for policymakers who may not be technical experts, or whether that's for communities at a local level, but pulling together research and making it more accessible to accelerate that uptake of research findings, and bringing with that a real focus on measuring results and impact and demonstrating value for money and rates of return from our research. And the third area I would highlight is innovation, really thinking about how we pull through innovation into use. How do we fund and prioritize innovation? How do we hand it off to those partners who are best placed to scale and to take research into the field and into use at scale?
Thank you. Nkatekolanga, what are the challenges for young researchers when it comes to innovation?
I would say that one of the major challenge would be strategy, consistency, and resilience, but not in the traditional sense, more on how to strategically navigate innovation, specifically in the development sector, not just to produce an innovation, but to have a high-level overview and understanding of the process from ideation, conceptualization, development, prototyping, dissemination, and it doesn't end there, monitoring, evaluation, learning, scaling. Do we scale up? Do we scale out? Do we scale deep? Do we scale at all? And being able to answer these questions in the right spaces at the right time with the right people, AKA the right investors. So more of strategic mentorship and guidance from project leaders beyond just activities and deliverables, but to give us a high-level understanding and overview of the different iterative phases of what goes behind the project, because it's easier to contribute something valuable, not just when you are shown what the bigger picture is, but when you're actually part of creating it and actually being able to get some insight on the transparency of the challenges that they face, because we will be in their shoes one day.
Absolutely. Dr. Holger Manke, how can science better the industry and resilience, or rather inclusivity and resilience?
Well, we heard earlier from the Council of the Wise that science is a mindset. And science does not require you to believe. It requires critical thinking. And when you look around the room, you see a lot of signs that say, with science we can. You probably notice that that sentence is incomplete, because you can complete it with many other words. One of the words that I would like to use is, with science we can create knowledge. And knowledge is one of those very rare commodities that actually increases the more we share it. The question is, how can we share it? How can we share it most effectively, most impactfully? And this is where inclusive innovation comes in. And there's a lot of talk about inclusive innovation, but when it comes down, what it really means is to engage marginalized communities, including women, including smallholder farmers, including young people, in the innovation process. It is about giving agency to people. We heard that it is important not just to co-create, but to co-implement. We can only co-implement if people have agency. And what Nicole said before about young people, I think, is absolutely critical here. We need to give them power. We need to give them the agency to act and to make the important decisions for the future. It's important to note that inclusivity or inclusion is not a value-free space. We must be very clear and articulate where the boundaries are, which values we hold dear, and which values are not negotiable when it comes to the inclusion process. This is probably one of the most important aspects to consider when it comes for having impact through science and through research and through innovation. There are two other aspects that I'd briefly like to mention. One is that it is important that practices to be adopted are well aligned with the climate variability and the near future changes of our climate. Rachel referred to that in her comments. Also, we need to get much better at leveraging the digital tools that are now at our disposal in order to engage with the stakeholders and to give them the agency that I talked about earlier.
Very good. Yeah. Dr. Rachel Lambert, if I was to ask you, how should CGIAR evolve practices and maintain relevance?
So I think first, coming back to the point I made earlier around prioritization, we can't afford to be fragmented in the research community. We can't afford duplication. So making sure that we're coherent in the way in which we plan, design, implement, and fund research programs, that we're streamlined, that we're really focusing our resources as effectively as possible. And I think the science programs that we're hearing about this week give us a really powerful mechanism to do that, and one around which funders can coalesce, if you like. I think the second thing is being clear about comparative advantage and working best to the things that we all do best and that the CGIAR does best. So really focusing on and refining where is its technical expertise strongest and where can it hand off to other partners that may have particular areas of expertise. And on that last point, I think I would suggest a much stronger focus on building and fostering really impactful relationships and equitable relationships with national agriculture research systems. They're at the forefront of a lot of what we've heard about already today, building context, bringing voice, and I think we need to put them much more at the center of the work that we're doing.
All right. Nkatekolanga, if I was to ask you in 1 minute to give us your call to action to these folks out here, what would it be?
My call to action would be to...
Louder, Nkateko.
Sorry. My call for action would be to prompt you all to empower, enrich with knowledge, and take a chance on someone who you see has great potential, shape them, mold them, and try and direct them because they will be our future leaders one day.
Professor Manka, what would yours be?
Our problems that we are facing here are not disciplinary problems. They are transdisciplinary problems and interdisciplinary problems. Therefore, I would strongly advocate that we focus on interdisciplinary research because the solutions that we are looking for are most likely to be found at the interfaces of those different disciplines. We need to address complex issues such as climate change, food security, biodiversity loss, through those interdisciplinary approaches that integrate the social, the economic, and the environmental perspectives. I would also advocate that we prioritize policy engagement and advocate much more for policy support. This is something that came out very strongly from the Council of the Wise earlier today, and I think science has a very important contribution to make to that process.
Excellent. Science for the future. We're going to be talking a lot about that throughout the week, folks, so get ready. In the meantime, thanks so much. Let's give our panel a round of applause, please. I'd like to call upon all our speakers from the first segment, including VIPs, to come on stage for a photo opportunity, please. All the speakers, including VIPs, come on stage. Photographers, come, get ready. Let's take a quick photo before we carry on into the next segment. How are you, sir? Ismahan.
Thank you.
Ismahan, I'd like you to remain on stage. Well done. Ismahan, I'd like you to remain on stage. You have a tribute to make in a video presentation. Stage is yours.
So maybe I use, yeah.
Okay.
Right. So good afternoon, colleagues. As we gather for the Science Week, it is right that we pause to remember someone whose vision, mission, and presence shaped so much of the work we do. And that's Dr. Canayo Nwanze. Canayo sadly passed away exactly 2 months ago. His loss, it's deeply felt, not only in this room, but across the global community that he has inspired. He was a towering figure in our field, but more than that, he was a dear friend to many of us in this room and online. I had the privilege to know Canayo and his family for over 15 years, and in every encounter, I was struck by his deep wisdom, his humility, and his unwavering commitment to Africa's future. Canayo often reminded us that the Green Revolution actually skipped Africa. And he made it his life mission to change that, from his work in Nigeria to Africa Rice, to IFAD, to CGIAR, and later on through his own foundation called Fayode, which means youth power. He dedicated his life to championing science, uplifting smallholder farmers, and advancing African-led solutions. His absence today leaves a void, but his legacy lives in the work we do and the value we hold. I would like us really to stand for a moment of silence as we remember and celebrate the extraordinary life of Dr. Canayo Nwanze and his contribution to agriculture and science at large. Thank you. Our thoughts are with his lovely wife, Juliana, which is also a very good friend, and with his family. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ismahan. I'd like to call upon Mr. Mauricio Martina, Deputy Director General of FAO, to give a video message. Is the video message queued up? Let's go to that videotape.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear Ismahan, innovation, partnership, and investment are critical to achieve zero hunger and address the challenge of climate change. By combining them, we are building a sustainable progress and tackling the challenges that could hinder our shared future, including climate change. International agricultural research plays a critical role in advancing innovation and promoting solutions in partnership with the national agricultural research systems. There is substantial evidence that investment in agricultural research can lead to significant agricultural growth and poverty reduction. When it comes to smallholders, agricultural research can play a major role in enabling them to sustainably improve their production and livelihood. By aligning efforts to support smallholder farmers and marginalized groups, we create shared property that benefit entire societies. In order to do this, international and national agricultural research systems have to evolve and become more efficient and more effective. They must respond to farmers' demands, benefit from the potential offered by the new financing mechanism and national or international partnerships, and consider both the immediate and long-term needs of family farmers. But it's critical to shift the research agenda away from productivity gains only towards environmental concern and efficient use of research. Just think an increasing threat posed by climate change. By joining our efforts, we can develop strategies and action that help communities to adapt, safeguard their livelihoods, and we can ensure the sustainability of agri-food systems even under the most challenging conditions. In addition, dynamic and demand-driven agricultural research systems can play a critical role in multi-stakeholder process and partnership that promote agricultural innovation. Partnership to promote investment, improve technical and human capacities, and improving linkage with the educational research extension can effectively addressing the needs to the farmers. On behalf of FIO, I extend my gratitude to you and all the contributors to this important and timely program. It provides a very vital platform to fostering the partnerships and bringing together diverse voices and harness the power of science and innovation, in particular in this historic period. This week would be a testament to the impact of collective effort and actions to address one of the humanity's most critical challenges. I thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. This next panel discussion is on empowering inclusivity and partnerships. It will be moderated by Dr. Juan Lucas Restrepo. He's the Director General, Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT. I'd like to call upon the following panelists. Ms. Elizabeth Simadala, President, Eastern Africa Farmers Federation. Dr. Nicoline Dehaan, Director, CGIAR Center for Equality, Youth and Social Inclusion Platform. Dr. Gay Fowler, Senior Policy Officer, European Commission, DG INTPA. And Dr. Sylvia Hangen, Policy Officer, IGAD. Is that working, Dr. Han?
Yes, it's working. Thank you, MC. This is a session following the day where we look at the role of inclusivity and in partnership, inclusivity, so we can better address the challenges of the agri-food system we have been discussing about today, that our girl from the South expressed very, very clearly. And we need to do this by acknowledging the complexity and the context specificity of these challenges, by acknowledging the need of inclusive approaches, innovative approaches to research and innovation, and specifically on how we build better South-South partnerships that account for all pertinent contributions first. Second, that are co-created, and we just heard this in the past session. And third, that to deliver impact at scale from all. So to our panelists, thank you for being here, and let's start with Elizabeth. You were introduced already, so I'm not going to go through that again. To ask you what are the necessary enablers of inclusivity from the farmers and for the farmers.
Yeah. Thank you very much. In addition to my introduction, just to mention that I represent 25 million smallholder farmers who are members of the Eastern Africa Farmers Federation in 10 countries of Eastern Africa. So from where I sit as a farmer representative, when we speak of enablers of inclusivity, we are looking at strategies and actions that promote a welcoming and equity environment for us all. We are looking at actions that promote meeting of leadership commitments. We are looking at policies that are inclusive, strategies that are inclusive, and actions that are inclusive. And we are looking at a culture that nurtures respect and a free environment where we all have a common understanding. And having mentioned all those, my next question is, are we practicing inclusivity? And I think from where I sit, we've really abused this word. And I want to be polite just to say that not by the actors in this room. And when you look at the culprits of exclusivity, it is mainly the farmers. We've all been talking about inclusivity, putting farmers at the center, but we only use this word in documents and while addressing such audiences, because we don't walk the talk. You will hear words like co-creation, co-innovation, co-implementation, co-partnerships. But as long as we don't make it intentional to have farmers on board, then we will not be there. I know you all have good intentions when you're coining some of these words. But I think the biggest challenge is the competition for resources and interests. Why am I saying this? Thank you. We will come together as a consortium with a CGIAR, and we win a project, 15 million. But how much goes to the farmers? 200,000 for 3 years. And why? Because Professor so-and-so and Dr. so-and-so have 20 years of experience in research. And yet Elizabeth here, this smallholder coffee and banana farmers, was even born in the banana plantation. She has more than 40 years of experience in banana farming. And then you talk of farmer-led research, and you don't bring her on board to give you information on how best you can address the challenges that she's going through. And now you come up with the different types of bananas, the fears, I don't know how many numbers, you can't even count. But where is the implementation? You're only bringing us on board just because you know there is a component of extension and outreach. Can we be equal partners? Because there is something that we are bringing on the table. We are really striving a lot to make sure that we bridge this gap by working with the private sector, with the public, and with the research centers. What I would like to see out of this conference, the CGIAR week, and I'm speaking to you, my dear sisters, both of you. Can we formalize our partnership? Can we have a clear MOU with clear deliverables so that we can hold each other accountable? Thank you.
Bravo. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. And you are kind of the first voice of farmers in this conversation. We're gonna hear from you all week. and it's definitely walking the talk and moving from the documents to the field. And what you refer to as culture is going to be absolutely critical. Let me pass it to Nicolene, and also from our own self-assessment from CGIAR. Are our current efforts on gender and inclusivity sufficient, or do we need to do more? And if yes, what do we need to do more of?
A very complex question, but I think I have my answer partly here already. After all, Africa and the world is fed by women. And so I think that's where we need to also look at when we want to have a better impact. I think we've been doing quite well, and especially when you look at research on gender issues, I think we can be a little bit proud that we've actually made the invisible visible. We've actually understood and understand now that women are part of agriculture. And so let's give them the right due. And let's give them the cutting edge technologies they need to do their job. So I think that's one of the things science has shown, that women are part of agriculture. But we've also sort of fallen a little bit in a trap of analysis to paralysis. So we keep on saying women are overburdened, women, etc. So we also need to start looking for solutions. That's the big task we have ahead. How do we actually find solutions for women in agriculture? And that's partly by making it a societal issue. It's not a women's issue. It's a relational issue. It's a relational issue in society about men and women and the society we both want. So how do we work on that? How do we actually transform societies that they actually become better for everyone in them, and that everybody can and be the best they want, and especially in agriculture, that they can thrive? We have sort of three ways of doing that in the CG at the moment. One way is being a think tank, pushing the envelope on gender in agriculture, talking about gender transformative approaches. So how do we change societies? How do we push women's voices in the right spaces? We work on all those things. We also actually try to calculate what empowerment means. So that's one of our roles. The other role, which to me is actually the more exciting one almost, and the more important one, and the one that will give us much more impact, is working with the other scientists. I always say, telling a woman she's disempowered doesn't help her. Giving her a vaccine on Monday morning, that means she can keep her goats alive, that empowers. So I think those are the things that we need to do much more, work closer and much better with the science programs in the CGIAR, but also the whole community. We do it well, but we can do better. Then the last thing I think, which is also very important, is working with partners. We can't do it alone. It's everybody in this room that needs to help. It's again that societal responsibility. We've worked, for instance, with the African group of negotiators to make sure that gender is on the UNFCCC agenda and give them the data. We need to move towards that gender is not an emotive issue. It is grounded in data and evidence. That's where we need to move. Then we can all have a conversation. Then it's not just my opinion and your opinion. See, for me, the impact will be of the CGIAR if we can unlock and develop the right and absolute good tools and interventions for women so that they can actually contribute, as they are already doing, but just much more efficiently and effectively. That's my hope for the CG.
Thank you, Nicolene. So we've come a long way, but we need to do a lot better. And it's about agency and kind of bringing this into our day-to-day operations, so we make sure that every action is well aligned into this still critical societal challenge. So
hopefully you were listening. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Guy Faure from the European Commission, how can CGIAR ensure greater inclusivity in its programming? Guy, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this invitation.
I want to react with the recommendation of Elizabeth regarding to establish a memorandum of understanding between research and farmers' organization. And I really think that inclusivity is also a question of institutional arrangements and practices at different levels. So it means we need to start with a local level to have multi-stakeholder approaches, to mobilize different type of actors, to do research differently. We talk about multidisciplinary research with Olga, but we also need to have multi-actor approaches with the farmers' organizations, with youth, with private sector, and develop partnership to develop and co-innovate, mobilizing all the knowledge. We talk about that, but maybe we need to do more and to do more seriously, to do research differently. We especially emphasize this dimension at the European Commission level with our Desiree initiative to try to capacitate stakeholders, researchers, managers to be able to manage this kind of real partnership, which is not an easy way to travel. But if we want to work on inclusivity, we also need to work at other levels. And you mentioned, for example, at national level, from the local to global level. At national level, you mentioned good interaction with national agricultural research system. In Kenya, for example, Isman, you mentioned a lot of examples. And I think we need to have more institutional arrangements to be sure that those actors could be really part of the process to plan, monitor, assess the research program, not just to participate in some research program, which is needed, but also to be a real actor. And maybe we need to work better on this. And Juan Lucas, we really appreciate all the efforts you do on this, at this level with the partnership program and activities. So thank you for that. But we also need to be coherent at regional and continental level to work with regional organization, continental organization. That's the reason why we support FARA, CORA, CARDESA, SARECA in Africa, to be sure they could be partners with research organization, international research organization, including CGIAR, and be able to better coordinate investments regarding research innovation. At this moment, we are designing with FARA international research consortium to be able to discuss with African partners the priorities regarding research innovation, not to just be beneficiaries of research innovation projects and funding, but be actors to define priorities at the African level. So it's a challenge. Do hope that we can work together on that. And finally, at global level, so we also need to have some mechanisms to work together. That's the reason why we support GIFA, and Juan Lucas again know about this story, but we have the main actors in the room. And we really hope that the global NAS consortium will be an effective partner to discuss priority at global level and to really represent national organization. It's a challenge, it's a work, but I think it's worth to try to have some actors at global level to discuss priorities. So for us, inclusivity is institutional arrangement from local to global level with some coherence between the different levels.
Thank you, Guy. So multi-actor, multi-stakeholder approaches and really challenging ourselves on the institutional arrangements that help us connect the local to national, to regional, to global, and back and forth to ensure we maximize impact. Thank you for that. And Sylvia, please help us with one or two examples of inclusivity initiatives that you have seen and consider particularly effective?
Thank you. I'm Sylvia from IGAD, Policy and Food Security expert. As a regional body, we are basically dealing with cross borders. So when you're talking about inclusivity and the cross border, it's one thing to talk about diversity, where you're talking about having a voice. And then inclusion is talking about making that voice count. But we have to go beyond inclusion and get towards making that voice belong. So I think that's one of the challenge, because we are talking about conflict-stricken areas. We are talking about forced displacement, and we are talking about science and technology. So how do you make sure that someone who is a returnee or a displaced person benefit from that science? Because these are the marginalized. When we talk about inclusion, it goes beyond gender. So we are looking at farmers in conflict-restricted areas who are going through challenges that are very unique, yeah? So at IGAD, for example, we are looking at the cross borders, and when we are developing policies, looking at nutrition, the person who suffers most at the verge of war is the child who cannot access highly nutritive diet. And so when you're talking about developing a technology, then even at the point of inception, how much effort do we take to look at the nutritional aspect of that food with regard to that child at the cross border? How do we look at inclusion with regard to the women at the cross border who are facing insecurity, the pastoralists who are already displaced, losing their cattle, and then we are adding resilience. So there should be an aspect of sustainability in all this, yeah? It has to go beyond just having data to what is the use of this data. Last week, we were sitting with the Kenyan government delegation and just asking ourselves, yes, we have data. We were supposed to have poverty, for example, by 2025. Here we are not making any progress. What are we doing about it? So it's not just having the data, and we are doing well, and we are making progress with regard to having data. But what do we do with this data? What changes are we making with this data that we are taking? Secondly, with regard to gender, when we are building technology, for example, the climate smart technologies, are we at the onset having a gender lens to this technology, or we first build the technology and then we want to have the gender to merge to it? So these are some of the challenges. So we end up with this technology that the woman at the displaced area cannot access or cannot make use of. And look at the youth, again, as another area in which we need to look at inclusion. And while we talk about digitalization and trying to develop applications and many things, we are not looking at how really effective this will be to them, you know, the AI and so on, the impact, the positivity, and with regard to food security, because at IGAD we are keen, currently running a program to just build resilient food systems. So here we should go beyond the publication to actually enforcing some of these discoveries. For example, we are currently looking at the groundwater systems. There is conflict. So as much as we have data, we have groundwater information system right now that we have developed. But the challenge is, how do we make this useful to people at the cross border so that they're able to actually improve their food security, but also foster peace building? So I'm adding the word sustainability to the whole system. So as we're talking about inclusion, we are talking about sustainable inclusions, yeah? That covers not just the moment, covers children, covers the elderly. So one of the things we do, we involve the youth in peace and conflict resolution. We also involve the community gatekeepers, the elderly, and also the women in land governance. That way, we are not just having data on how difficult it is for women to access land, but having these dialogues with both men and women so that we are bridging this gap. Because one of the challenges with pushing gender alone as looking at it from a women lens is another source of conflict. So what is the sustainability angle to this? It's bringing both the men and the women at the table who are fighting over the sustainable resource that is so limited, accessing credit facility so that there is a joint agreement. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Sylvia. I think the call to better account for the marginalized, the disenfranchised communities and beneficiaries on our, not only how we do our research, but in terms of delivery and better, more effective impact pathways is going to be critical. We are running out of time, so let me just, and maybe quoting something that Elizabeth said, paper can take a lot, right? So we have a very nice formal commitment on CGIAR. That's an engagement framework for partnership and advocacy that our system approved about a year ago. It includes all of this. It's a very nice document on inclusivity, co-creation, making sure we account for power imbalances, accountability, and that's the paper. Now we have a research and innovation portfolio that is there, that we are presenting, that we are co-creating, and that needs to be, and this is my non-institutional opinion, assessed through the lens of inclusivity and partnership, so it's absolutely effective and successful. Thank you to all.
Another round of applause for our panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wan. All right, continuing on. It's all about partnerships. I'd like to call upon on stage Dr. Salim Luafi, Deputy Director for Research and Strategy at CIRAD. Dr. Ravindra Ketapal, Executive Director, APARI. Professor Hildegard Lingo, Executive Secretary, Global Forum on Agricultural Research and Innovation, Jumbo. Dr. Catherine Tower, she's the Regional Director, Eastern and Southern Africa for IDRC. Toure, okay. Somebody said Tower. Toure, of course. All right, real quick, like I was asking before, let's go around the room and tell us exactly what your outfit represents. Dr. Salim Luafi, you first in a couple of sentences.
Thank you. My name is Salim Luafi. I'm Deputy Director for Research and Strategy at CIRAD. CIRAD is the French Agricultural Research and International Cooperation Organization, and we are working at the nexus between agriculture, environment, and health.
All right. Dr. Ravinder Ketapal.
Thank you. I'm Ravi Ketapal. It's difficult for you to pronounce. I represent Global Forum of Agriculture.
A little louder, please. Louder.
I represent Global Forum of Agriculture, Research and Innovation as the chair of the forum, and I'm also Executive Director for Asia Pacific Association of Agriculture Research Institution. Both the organizations, we are more engaged in innovation, the bottom-up approach, and in working for the agri-food system transformation in our own innovative way.
Dr. Hildegard Lignon.
Thank you so much. I'm, if I may say so, alluding to what Ismahan said earlier on, I'm a girl from the Global North. Maybe I'm more not qualifying as a girl any longer, a woman from the Global North, but very happy to have spent almost my whole professional life in the Global South. And I'm currently very happy and honored and pleased to work for a network which is a global network, a global forum for agricultural research and innovation. mainly, but not only, driven by the regional fora of the Global South, and we will have all of them. We have all of them with us today and on Thursday. Please come and join for a big initiative we are launching. I'm the executive secretary of this Global Forum, very happy to serve our chairperson, our steering committee, our 1,000 members that we currently have. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Catherine Toure.
I'm working with Canada's International Development Research Centre, and we fund research teams in the Global South to help fill knowledge gaps on the journey of food systems transformation. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Salim Luafi, real quick, what are the best and toughest aspects of building R&D partnerships?
Thank you. So saying something really new on such a conventional topic is quite hard. So let me try to do this by acknowledging that there are many ways to answer to this question, and I'd like to offer three of them from three different perspectives. First, at the macro level, the geopolitical one, the policy one, the challenge is really to recognize that the global political context has dramatically changed, and partnership can no longer be approached only from a kind of capacity strengthening activity, but rather as a way to promote mutual learning on new issues of common interest. And there are several that we know, obviously, in this critical moment. This means pooling resources, capacity, intelligence, bridging also different epistemic values, different discipline, different sectors together, and different actors with different social values, and bridging scales from local to global. Now, at the micro level, at the level of groups, of teams, of projects, the challenge is really to be better equipped to deal with this broader challenge of knowledge integration across sectors, across scale, and across type of knowledge, and engage in various forms of collective action for partnership building in research and development project. And that is done through co-research, co-intervention, and co-decision. And then at the meso level, which is the institutional level, the organizational level, here the challenge is to mediate this micro and macro level and to create the condition for this change in practice, change of practice at the micro level to happen, and to collectively learn about the condition through which co-production could really take place and be sustained. And this really means that partnership should be seen not just as a means, but as an end in itself, and that we need to foster reflexivity, learning about how to better work together and build common rules to achieve, to make sure that all partners have an equal role and say in this partnership relation. So at CIRAD, together with our partners all around the world, and of course with the CG, with which we have a long-standing collaboration for many years through staff exchange and project and hosting arrangement, we are trying to address these challenges through four main dimensions. First, the pooling of resources, of intelligence and expertise. No single institution has all the answer to complex issues, and all the science we do in CIRAD is done in partnership. Second, we need to invest in long-term and sustained partnership. A key focus of CIRAD is to ensure sustainable impact beyond, I would say, individual project. And we have a special mechanism for that, which are the partnership platform that allow to sustain partnership beyond the life cycle of project, and envisage partnership as not just a means, but an end in itself, as I've already said. And through partnership, we really try to help connect people that would otherwise not work together. Third, we establish a culture of impact. This culture helps us to better position ourselves and our intervention within a broader research and innovation ecosystem, and hence really foster new relationships, new partnerships, and new way of designing, planning, evaluating intervention, and work to scale up innovation. And fourth, and that's my last point, we are engaged in transformative science through actionable knowledge. The partnerships allow CIRAD and our partner to blend scientific expertise with local knowledge, with with knowledge from different actors, ensuring that research directly benefit the communities and influence policy. By working with local institutions, we make sure that innovation are context-specific and relevant and sustainable. This co-production mechanism makes it possible to generate actionable knowledge and bridge the gap between knowledge and action by blurring this distinction between production of knowledge and use of knowledge, by engage actors in the generation of knowledge and make use of that knowledge while we are generating it in the course of the project. And that means that we don't need to wait for the end of a project and from output to make sure that what we are doing is really beneficial for the community with whom we are engaging. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Ravinder, tell us about GNC and global foresight for food.
Thank you. Well, I'll begin with Foresight for Food, which is an initiative which came up after COVID crisis and conflict. They were at the peak, and the UN Food System Summit, which started talking about the agri-food system transformation. So foresight and visioning actually is a part of most of the organization and institution. But for the agri-food system, it's now gaining momentum, and it's really going to prepare us for the eventualities. And this network, which is supported by CGIAR, Patrick Kenyan, the vice chair of the CG System Board, is chairing that, and IFAD and DGIS, ACIR, GFAIR, CIRAD, and University of Montpellier and University of Oxford. I'm representing as an Asia representative in this network, which is a global network supporting food system transformation process by offering organizational scenarios and oversight and foresight expertise. And this is now being linked with the UN Food System Coordination Hub. Here, CGIAR also has its own initiatives on foresight, which summarizes things on the kind of with analytics and innovative use of data and close collaboration with various partners to find alternate pathways for food system transformation. But CGIAR has a slightly different approach to work. And this Foresight for Food network actually focuses on strengthening the international community of foresight practitioners. As such, foresight practitioners have gained more importance now with all the issues which are cropping up. And the Foresight for Food is identifying opportunities for enhancing the use of foresight in food system transformation initiative, in the application of foresight and scenario analysis, in contributing towards policy, innovation, and system change. Some examples I can highlight is the supporting national system in Bangladesh, Jordan, Kenya, and Uganda, then modeling future food demand, working with MasterCard Foundation on future of youth in Africa, foresight analysis of IFAD's new strategic framework, and using foresight to design World Food Programs for their program of the World Food Program for Tukana fisheries in Kenya. So it is coming up. It is a very young network, a few years old only. And it has its own guiding framework. I'm not going to highlight all that. But what I can say is this is a platform which offers access to global learning network, capacity development in the foresight activities, and support for system change and access to global network of expertise. Now, coming to the second point is on the Global NAS Consortium. This has been rightly introduced by G4 in the previous session, which it is basically GFAIR's initiative, which is funded by European Commission. And Hildegard also mentioned in the beginning, like how GFAIR is engaged in this as a mega collective action. What I would say briefly is why we are giving so much importance to National Agriculture Research System. GNC is Global NAS Consortium. Now, National Agriculture Research System, whether we like or not, they are the hub. They are the hub for the all the policy changes in a country is the government structure with all the agriculture institutions network. Secondly, they are the hub for really pushing the investment by the country for the country, which is very important. And this is what most of the global donors are looking for. When they come with project, they look for ownership. When ownership comes, there has to be investment by the NARS. So these are the things where we have been failing globally to a great extent. So the point was to make sure that NARS starts investing for its own activity by taking ownership of whatever innovation and technology they imbibe or they apply in their respective countries. So GFAIR had this idea about 2 years ago. We conceived this idea. We prepared a database. We found CGIAR is doing a great work, but only in 78 countries in the world. In the database, we have more than 183 or 185 NARs. So more than half the world is left out. And where we can reach with some facilitation with the CGIAR technology, CGIAR innovation, to make sure that we have the practically, it is harmonizing the growth and development across the world.
All right, Dr. Ravinder.
Yeah. So,
Dr. Ravinder, you can save that for the rest of the week. There'll be plenty of time to talk about that, okay?
Sorry?
There'll be plenty of time to talk about that. Let me move on, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Ligno, what are the strategies for effective and agriculture food partnerships, agri-food partnerships?
Thank you so much for the question. We do have not only a strategy, but we have a very concrete initiative. And I can keep it short by inviting you to the big event. We are the launch event of this very global NARS consortium initiative on Thursday, 10:30. I think it's in this room or in the other big one. Please check on the agenda. So this is indeed the initiative that was taken by the Regional Fora on Agricultural Research from APARE, Foragro. We have Mohamed Ibrahim with us. We have Farah with us. We have Kakare with us. We have, what region am I overlooking now? Anyhow, we have all the global regions, European Forum on Agricultural Research and Development as well. They will all give their reasons on Thursday why they think this is needed and how it can complement what we are already doing in the CGIAR. And we are very grateful to European Commission Director General for International Partnerships to have given us seed funding for this initiative, and that we will now launch on Thursday as another multi-stakeholder partnership, same as the other collective actions we are doing with the 13 constituencies we're having in GFAIR, mainly agricultural researchers from the Global South, but also farmers' organizations, private sector, civil society, FAO, IFAD, CGIAR, you name it, all the key stakeholders. But there is this missing link. At least that's what the NARS perceive and what the regional fora perceive. And that's what we like to bring together and bridge with this Global NARS Consortium initiative. So we are also now hosted by CGIAR ABC, which gives us a fantastic place to be and partner with as many of you as possible. And by linking the NARS with the fantastic research that is, and we hear more about this tomorrow, when we speak about the new portfolio. And we will have 2 testimonials also from CGIAR scientific, what is it called now? Science initiatives, I guess, research programs, whatever. And the breeding initiative, which is a big one and with whom we are already partnering. And then one of the accelerators, the CAPTCHA initiative, both of them will speak at the event as well. So please come and join, learn more about the reasons behind. It's a very concrete thing we want to do together. And those of you who are not able to join in person, look at our website, sign the call to action, and let us know how you would like to join the initiative. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Make sure you show up for those sessions. Dr. Catherine Toure, let me ask you this. Should we build new partnerships or should we enhance existing ones?
Yeah, thanks for the question, and it's a good one. So I'll talk a little bit about partnerships from the perspective of our experience at the International Development Research Center, and then kind of try to directly answer your question. My colleague from CIRAD talked about pooling of resources. So as a funder for research, we don't only take funds from the Parliament of Canada. We also partner with Rockefeller Foundation. We partner with UK FCDO. And we heard earlier from Wendy at the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research. So it's important for us to work with other funding partners because we keep each other on our toes. We learn together. We challenge each other. So that's one important way of partnering. But then, as research processes unfold, a plethora of partnerships also unfold. So if we're funding researchers on regenerative agriculture, they're not working in their own. One team in Ethiopia, another team in Ghana, another team in South Africa. They're working together as a cohort over 3 years, 5 years sometimes. So they're partnering amongst themselves to learn across boundaries and across context, which is richer than just doing your research in your silo. And then the research teams connect, of course, with knowledge users, farmer organizations, businesses engaged across the value chain, and policymakers. But there was someone talked earlier about transdisciplinary knowledge. So for us, it's not a matter of just bringing an economist and a soil specialist together. That would be for us interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary knowledge. But transdisciplinary knowledge, which means you need to work in partnership with people who know about different kinds of knowledge. So working with folks who know about indigenous knowledge, for example, so that you're actually marrying one type of knowledge, which might come from science, with another kind of knowledge, so another kind of partnership. And then three other types of partnerships. For example, working in Africa, it's kind of important to align with the African Union, Agenda 2063, and the new CAADP. And another important partner in the African space is the Africa Food Systems Forum, which influences the food systems space, and that'll be held in Dakar this year. Secondly, and others have mentioned, it's important to work not only at the local and community level and with the national agricultural research systems, but with regional organizations. And in this part of the world, that would be CAMESA, EAC, SADC, and IGAD. We just heard from a representative from IGAD. Or in Asia, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. And then finally, and we've been talking about this today, to advance equality and inclusion, we partner with the CGIAR Gender Platform. And we also partnered with the Partnership for Economic Policy, or PEP, to develop a course on gender equality and inclusion in research, because we were just getting a lot of proposals that were pretty much, let me just say, gender blind. And so then we had to have staff look at those proposals and set them aside and say we couldn't fund them. So we said, can we up the bar so that the proposals that we get are already gender sensitive or gender responsive or gender transformative? So there are about 1,000 people, maybe some of you in the room, who either completed or signed up for that course. So all you have to do is write PEP, Gender Equality and Inclusion, in research, and you can find the course. It's very strong on issues of intersectionality. So to get to answer your question, partnerships are necessary to scale innovations and enhance the lives and livelihoods of smallholder farmers, including women, youth, and indigenous peoples. As I said, partnerships help us to learn and innovate. So we need to nourish and deepen existing partnerships. However, we've talked about how the world is rapidly changing. So we also need to keep our eyes open for what new partnerships we also need to nourish in order to navigate, change, and adapt and ensure meaningful impact.
In other words, build new ones, enhance existing ones.
Pardon me?
Build new ones, enhance existing ones.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, panel, thanks so much. We're going to be talking about partnerships throughout the week. Thanks so much for now. Appreciate it. Please give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. All right, on to our final panelists of the evening. I'd like to ask Dr. Issam Yassin Mohammed, Director General, World Fish, to come on board. Dr. Yunus Adu, Vice President, Agriculture and Sustainability, Innovix. Dr. Agri Agunya, Executive Director, Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, FARA. Welcome, gentlemen. Real quick, just like I asked the other panelists, Dr. Asam, what does your outfit do in a couple of sentences?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. But by the way, you're doing an excellent job in timekeeping. Really impressed.
Thank
so
you.
well done, you. My name is Sam Yassin Mohammed. I'm the Director General of World Fish. World Fish is one of the CGIAR centers, with the only center that's mandated to work on enhancing production from fisheries and aquaculture and delivering nutritional benefits to those who need them most. That's all about me.
Excellent. Dr. Yunus Adu?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today in front of such a wonderful audience. I'm Yunus Adu. I'm Vice President in charge of agribusiness and sustainability solutions within Innovex. Innovex is basically the business builder of OCP, our mother company, and OCP is one of the world leading soil health and soil fertility provider. We are a Moroccan group, African group, proud of our Africanism, and therefore strongly committed to our sisters and brothers in Africa when regard to food security and climate change issues. Thank you very much.
Dr. Agri Agumia.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity. I am the Executive Director of the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, FARA. FARA is the continental apex organization for agricultural research. We are responsible for facilitating and supporting the attainment of the targets of the continent's development agenda through agricultural research. Interventions are through policy advocacy, partnerships. We're talking about partnerships this afternoon, through knowledge management and through capacity development. Thank you.
Dr. Isam, what kind of partnerships are needed for scale?
Sure. I think first and foremost, I just want to say that at CGIAR, we take the issue of partnership quite seriously. And you could tell from today's afternoon sessions that, the multiple sessions on partnership that we've had, I think that's really incredible. So for us, essentially, the issue of partnership is an existential issue because we know that without partnerships, we cannot deliver, right? We cannot do legitimate work and we cannot scale, we cannot deliver impact at scale. So therefore, I think the issue of partnerships cannot be understated. And with that said, Mr. Chair, I also want to add a point about, how in a number of occasions we heard today about how the world is changing. But I believe the world has been changing quite dramatically, or has changed indeed quite dramatically. From the days the CGIAR centers were established in the 1970s to today, the level of capacity that's there in these quote-unquote global south is immense. For example, I'll give an example of Egypt. In Egypt, there are 13 or 14,000 PhD holders in fisheries and aquaculture only. Right? So imagine any other aspect as well. So I think it's really important that we recognize, right, the level of capacity that's been built over the decades, and therefore the level of partnership where power is negotiated and trust is tested. I think the level and the definition or the type of partnership that we need is different in my opinion, because at the same time, with the increased level of capacity and awareness, the world is demanding for a decolonized science. The world is demanding for a legitimate science. The world is demanding for a legitimate partnership. And therefore, I think for us, it's really important that I think we recognize that as we pivot and redefine the level of partnership that we need. Because the question was about, what sort of partnership is needed in order to scale. this is the question that, you need to start. We need the partnerships that need to embrace co-creation. If we co-create, or we otherwise, if we don't co-create, that means we're just reinventing. If we are just reinventing, then legitimacy is compromised. If legitimacy is compromised, there's no level sense of ownership. If there's no sense of ownership, there is no way we can deliver impact at scale. So the level of genuine partnership that we need through genuine co-creation is really critical. And at CGIAR, we take this matter so seriously. And just to leave you with a statistical figure, in the last round of initiatives, for example, I've just been told in the initiatives of within the CGIAR, forget about the bilateral projects, only within the portfolio, in the last round, we had more than 4,000 partners in order for us to be able to deliver. And I think that's so critical, important to celebrate, but is it perfect? Maybe not. We'll continue to improve. So my last message, Mr. Moderator, is for us at CGIAR, partnership is not a side hustle. It is an existential and survival strategy. Thank you.
Nice. Dr. Yunus, what would make CGIAR a top choice partner?
Okay.
And don't answer just because they're in the room, just...
Yeah, actually, otherwise I won't be invited anymore by CGIAR. But actually, and when I referred to food security and climate change, which is what we are all seeking for Africa, this double green revolution that we've been waiting for so many years now. And even though we're strongly committed, we cannot do everything on our own. So definitely we need partners, partners with whom we are aligned in terms of vision, in terms of ambition. I would say also in terms of boldness. As a private group, we need to be bold, and we need to find the right partners that are as bold as us to be able to tackle the massive challenges that, or at least to contribute to tackle the massive challenges that all the stakeholders are facing on a daily basis, from smaller farmers to larger corporates. And by the way, Dr. Ismahan Wafi, when I heard your speech, I could sense this boldness that I'm referring to today. So therefore, CGIAR is definitely not an exception to this. Now to answer your question, Jeff, I would see, let's say, 3 to 4 areas I humbly believe that maybe CGIAR could focus on to strengthen its value proposition as a partner to different stakeholders, including private groups. First one, we're talking about food security. Therefore, it leads to the question of customization. Customization in the way that how are we able to provide adapted fertility soil, and soil health solutions that are adapted to crops, adapted to type of lands, and so on. And for that, definitely engaging further on co-building customized solutions at the ideation stage and working together hand in hand is something that I believe could be really interesting. The second thing is, and we are here in the Science Week, science is important. Without science, we're basically nothing today. But at the same time, it's good to develop new solutions, but at the same time, we need to make sure that it is sustainable from a business perspective. There is a market that we can address with those solutions. So maybe another area that CGIAR could explore is how we can, or how you can integrate in the thinking a more business-oriented approach or market-oriented approach that will definitely benefit all the stakeholders. The third area of focus would be scalability. We've been talking about how we can make all these initiatives and solutions scalable to reach the smallholder farmers, which is the end game. 85% of the agri in Africa is smallholder farmer based. So we believe that without innovation, we will never be able to accelerate this double green revolution. We will never be able to reach the smallholder farmer. When we talk about value chain and value chain integration, today integration is played by cooperatives. But cooperatives, they can reach 100, 1,000, 5,000 smallholder farmers in a remote village. I forgot the CEO of Heifer International Group mentioned Pula and Tribe Agric. These are two innovative startups. Pula is an insurtech, and Tribe Agric is a digitally enabled aggregator with whom we are also working. These are the examples of innovative startups that can help us scale solutions that work. And last but not least, and I'm sure you're all aware that we are entering into a new era. We don't know exactly where we are next week, next month. I mean, everything is changing so fast. So maybe also a more flexible approach in order to be able to adapt to the new market dynamics and also increase the responsiveness as an institution. These are the 4 areas.
Okay. Dr. Gumia, where should CGIAR and FARA collaborate for impact?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'll start by talking about 2 important partnership initiatives that have been underway for the last several years, but are now maturing and reaching a very critical stage. The first one is that the African institutions that are responsible for research, for extension, and the universities have come together to form an alliance or a consortium, a working arrangement where they collaborate strongly together. And that alliance is called ARIS, or the African Agricultural Research, Innovation, and Education Institutions. So that's the first one. The main actors within that coalition are FARA, AFAS, RUFORUM at continental level, and at sub-regional level, the sub-regional organizations, namely CORAF, ASERECA, CADESA, and NASRO. And these represent the national agricultural research systems. So that's the first development. The second one is that this coalition is entering a partnership engagement framework with the CGIAR. This is a very important development. There's been a lot of engagement between the African institutions and the CG about how to better collaborate. There were concerns about the equity of the partnership, how efficient the CG works with the African institutions, and this collaboration is aimed at bridging those gaps. So in terms of the areas of collaboration, there have been consultations over several months about what should those areas be. And there are 5 areas that have been identified. Number 1 is joint action around technology development and innovation. And this is really the bread and butter issues of research and technology development, breeding, soil health, regenerative agriculture, AI, digital agriculture, those kinds of things. Then as part of that is the important area of policy-oriented research. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the area of scaling for impact, facilitating scaling for impact by developing frameworks for farmer adoption and strengthening public-private partnerships. The third area is about capacity sharing and capacity development. And here it is around joint training on technology development, scaling, but also on research management, mentoring leaders in African institutions. Developing research infrastructure within the African institutions, and very importantly, facilitating a culture shift that will enable more equal and healthy partnerships for capacity sharing and for even for research. The last area under the capacity sharing and capacity development is on gender, youth, and inclusion, the areas of inclusion covering gender, youth, and the vulnerable. The fourth area is on monitoring, evaluation, and learning. We know that within the African institutions, there's a lot of data that is developed. The CG generates a lot of data. So harmonization of that data and monitoring, and a monitoring system that is harmonized. The last, the fifth and not the least area is on resource mobilization. And this covers joint fundraising, strengthening public-private partnerships and platforms to attract agribusiness investment, and diversifying funding opportunities. So those are the 5 areas: technology development, scaling for impact, capacity development, monitoring and evaluation, and joint resource mobilization. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, we're going to be hearing more about this. And like Dr. Isam was saying, it's all about partnerships at the end of the day. It's all about partnerships, and we'll be talking about that throughout the week. In the meantime, I'd like to ask all the speakers from this afternoon, all the speakers to come on stage for a group family photo, please. All speakers, please come on stage. Group family photo. We're just about done, ladies and gentlemen, just about done. Gentlemen, please stay on stage. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. I think my colleagues already reached out and we will have time to.
Thank you, sir.
How are you?
I'm not a scientist. One more round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists this afternoon. Round of applause, please. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well done, well done. Well done.
Get married and I had photo sessions. I've never had this many.